Mariam Mohammed, welcome to Money, Money, Money.
Hello, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we don't know each other that well. We randomly ran into each other a few years ago in Sydney, I think at Vince's office.
Yes.
And Vince and I were going to lunch, and I'm like, come to lunch with us.
That's right. That is what happened. And then we had lunch together.
Which is probably weird because you were like, yeah, sure, whatever. I've just met everyone and let's go eat. So.
That's right. I mean, of course, I was already following your show, Glenn. So for me, you were already a celebrity. I was like, I'm having lunch with Glen James, everybody.
We don't use the C word around here. We're going to have a chat today about Mariam's story, what she's doing for life, for work, for career, because it is in the money world. It is in the money realm. And then we'll hear a bit about you and everything that you're doing. But we can't do this episode without Sphere Home Loans. Thank you to Sphere Home Loans for supporting the podcast. We really value that, when listeners reach out or viewers reach out and want a mortgage broker, we can actually send them to a trusted place. Because, when you're helping people, if someone's like, oh, Mariam, I need help, where to go? For whatever it is, you want to make sure you can rely on whether it's a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, that they're a good butcher, they're a good baker, they're a good candlestick maker. And Sphere Home Loans support the podcast. And we just thank them for helping listeners. They've got a team of dedicated brokers who just look after listeners of the show. So you can reach out to Sphere Home Loans anywhere you do your Googling. Full mortgage broking, they'll have a look at your situation, provide you most appropriate options and get you into a mortgage. But let's have a chat. My name's Glen James and this is Money, Money, Money. Okay, talk to me. We just jumped into a lift. We pressed ground. We're on level 30. We've got about 30 seconds. Who are you? If I was to say, Mariam, explain who you are, can you kind of do that without saying what you do for work?
Oh, Glenn, why? No, I definitely can. I am a teacher. I think that is the simplest way to put it.
Yeah.
That was the OG career that I wanted when I was a little child, actually. So I'm going to take a moment to be happy for little Mariam. I like to teach. And my main area of expertise is violence prevention. So what that's ended up looking like is a lot of different things. But what is driving me is I want to help people become more holistic, healthier versions of themselves, to lead themselves from within, so that we can make sound decisions for ourselves and our futures. Yeah.
So, and this is hard, right? And I think it's harder for people who may be self-employed and are doing their passion from an early age. Like I was into personal finance when I was 16, 15, 14. And so it's almost a lot of who I am. And the same with you, like you've got your own business, you're effectively teaching and doing money stuff. And we started of who you are and it did go to the core of what you do. So it's very hard.
I know.
So if I press rewind as a young woman, what age did you think that you liked to be a teacher or wanted to be a teacher?
I think I was maybe 4 or 5 years old when I was first pretending to be a teacher. And I think it's so funny. The things that were true for me at that age are the things that are true of me today as well. And in the middle, there was just a whole great tangent that I went on because I was following other people's advice. But really, it all came full circle back to I like teaching. I like to learn something and then immediately share it with my people. I like to create. I was always an artist. It used to be paintings. Then I did a film degree. I like to create, whether it's through my word or through a physical creation. That was true of Mariam then, and it's true of Mariam today. So some of the core things about me, they've stayed exactly the same.
Yeah, it's because I've learned like recently, you can change behaviors. It's really hard to change who you are.
the essence of a person.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe we are born with that essence. And as children, we know it very clearly. But then over time, with the various systems that we kind of have to exist in, education, workplaces, etc., that were built to kind of fit people into a box because they were meant to churn out industrial workers, not entirely relevant anymore, but we still follow the same systems.
Yeah.
So we lose, trying to fit ourselves into those boxes, we lose that essence. And those of us who are lucky enough will eventually circle back to it. But I really believe we're born knowing very clearly who we are and what I'm here to do.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people might be thinking there's an accent there. It's not the traditional Glen James "G'day, mate." Before we press go, you talked about you had family in London. Where did the accent come from?
Oh, yeah. So I'm Pakistani, born and bred in Pakistan. I moved to Australia when I was 19, and I've lived about as many years in Australia now. So certain things that I learned in Australia, I'll say in an Aussie way, like the word Australia. I don't say Australia or Melbourne or Cairns or Macca's.
Okay, so you're mid-30s-ish.
31.
31.
Yeah.
Oh, 19. Yeah, okay. So you're coming up on, half-half.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
What was it like? Because when you're 19 or, 18, you've gone through those very influential years of your life, right? Where, I can say, what's your favourite music? It's probably going to go back to when you're 16, right? Or stuff like that. Like you've almost formed. What was it like coming to a different country at that age? As opposed to people say, oh, we moved to Australia when I was 4 and this is all I know. So how's that contrast been for you?
Yeah, I think I remember so clearly the flight to Australia. It was a momentous occasion in my life. I had experienced violence back home and I was moving so I could rebuild a life away from violence. Living in Pakistan in the 90s and noughties it was hard to escape violence. And I remember getting on that flight and I had so much excitement because I realized on the plane that I essentially have a blank canvas now. I'm going to a place where nobody knows who Mariam is. I can be whoever I choose to be, but most importantly, I can be me. Growing up there, I had to leave. I didn't have to. I chose to because it felt safer to live a double life. I was only really me with my close friends where it was a safe space to be me. But outside of that, I fit into whatever boxes I had to fit into. Good Muslim girl, good student, la-di-da. I fit into the boxes I had to fit into to get by. But it was so far removed from who I am at my core.
So it must be almost relaxing to not have to be a chameleon anymore.
It is so much labor, Glenn, living the double life.
That it happens with a lot of people in Pakistan?
Yes. Not just in Pakistan. It's a cultural thing. I think it's a collectivist culture thing.
Is that a Middle East thing or a Islam thing or...
I think it's just a collectivist culture thing because I know it's true for South Asians living everywhere in the world. Younger South Asians feel often the need to live the double life so that they can have harmony with their parents, intergenerational harmony at the cost of self. But I also know that's true for other collectivist cultures like Islander cultures, Indigenous cultures, where younger generations may have different ideas or values to their elders, but a collectivist culture has a certain protocol that has to be followed when it comes to intergenerational relationships. So instead of bringing everyone to the table and having honest, raw conversations, we choose to live the double life.
Yeah, put the facade up.
Yes, which is easier in the short term, but my gosh, it's so hard in the long term. It's like a whole web of lies.
Did you come from wealth in Pakistan?
I did. I come from a middle-class family.
Yeah. And is the accent-ish an international school?
That's right.
Yeah.
So I
And there is, I guess the reason I ask that is not everyone would have the opportunity to immigrate to another country.
No.
I would imagine not everybody would have the opportunity to go to an international school.
Nope.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So I also had passport privilege because my parents used to live in Australia in the 70s and then moved back to Pakistan. That's why this place, I always had the passport, but as a child, and other people did say to me, Mariam, you're so lucky, but it never clicked to me until that moment where I realized I will either live here and die or I get out of here. But if I get out of here, where do I go? Because it won't be with the full blessing of my family. So I may be able to get some support from them, but it's not like they will want to or be able to bankroll everything. So where can I go? And then I realized why. Why did everyone say I'm so lucky to have an Aussie passport? Because all I need is a ticket to get to Australia, and then I can figure it out from there, which is obviously not something everyone can do.
Yeah, and like I will say, when people say, what's the best thing about my job, right? I'll tell you the worst thing. It's like actually doing the work and recording podcasts. I get a bit sick of it. But like I love when I meet people like you that if I never did this podcast, I wouldn't be able to actually learn about you and your culture and your history. And it's made me a better person doing this podcast.
Yeah.
Because sitting down, learning that you effectively were in this place, you've come here, it just makes me a more open and accepting person, if that makes sense, because I've removed myself from this bubble that I was living in.
Yeah.
And that's why if I ask questions, and I don't know if they might be insensitive or because I just don't know.
Yeah, no, I like that you ask questions, Glenn. I understand that not everyone may be open to receiving all of those questions.
Yeah.
But I am, because I know that I have capacity to have this conversation. And then the follow-on impact is you see more in the world.
Yeah.
But then everyone who looks up to Glenn also sees more in the world. For me, that's a happy place to be.
Because I've not had a in-depth conversation with someone who grew up in Pakistan.
Yeah.
I've known people that visited there, and I've probably got two questions, and then we'll move on because I want to talk about money.
Yeah.
The violence that you kind of grew up with, was that more of a societal, neighborhood, systemic violence thing or within family type stuff?
It was both.
Okay.
So growing up at that time, and things are different now. I haven't lived there in a long time, so this is not the contemporary truth of that place. But I grew up in Karachi, which is Pakistan's biggest metropolitan. And when I was growing up, the Afghan war was well ongoing. And we had a big influx of refugees coming to settle in Karachi and people from rural Pakistan coming to settle in Karachi. Karachi is a mammoth of a city. It has within one city the total population of Australia. But it's like you can go from one end to the other in 1 hour. That's how many people are crammed into this small area. So there's a lot of inevitable violence that results from that overcrowding. And that looks like street violence.
Yeah.
Sure. But it was mostly political violence that was heavily impacting like everyone's lives, you know, like we had to check the route to our school because we heard a bomb go off, you know, so which way are we taking to school? Is the school on today? Or, you know, like there was a lot of political violence, and then family violence, that's just commonplace. Growing up in Pakistan, I don't know what it is like now, but that was very commonplace.
Do you think it was the external pressures just crept in? Like, because if you think about it, as obviously if there was a family, maybe not so obviously because I don't have a family, but I'm just thinking it's if there was a family and there was external stresses, financial, societal, all the things, just adds pressure to the situation.
True.
And I mean, I don't think there's ever any excuse for violence, but yeah, I don't know. It's just...
I think it's a bit of both. I think they both contribute to each other.
Yeah.
Because I do believe like...
I mean, there's a lot of wealthy people here that are violent.
Exactly. I think peace communally is created through individual peace and vice versa, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think they both influence each other. Violence is quite visceral. It's almost like I can't take a step there without seeing or hearing or experiencing some kind of violence. A lot of violence, particularly against women, is incorporated into policy, so it's systematized.
Yeah, systemic, yeah.
Yeah, so there's no escaping it.
And then my next question, I don't know if it's real or an exaggeration. A friend of mine visited Pakistan probably early 2000s, and he said he saw a body on the side of the road and people just walking past it. Just like no one cared. The life wasn't valued. And that could have just been the area that he was in or whatever, but he said it was very eye-opening.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, if you live in a place where war is common and you wake up every day to hundreds and hundreds of deaths in your city, thousands in your country, how are you meant to move on with your day if you were to stop and mourn every life lost in the way that we want to or are meant to? I would probably never have gone to school if we had a day off for every day that we had a bombing.
Yeah, it's wild, isn't it?
It's a different world. We try our best to just keep living life while, a lot is crumbling. And particularly at that time, again, things are different now.
Yeah.
At that time, it would have been violent because there was, lots of overflow of war into Pakistan, flowing all the way down to south where I was. And there was a lot of political turmoil, a lot of systemic violence like that. And I get what your friend is saying. I only realized that after I moved to Australia and my second year here or something, there was the Lint siege.
Oh, yes.
And to me, I worked in Sydney City at the time, just down the road. We closed up, went home. But I didn't understand what the fuss was about. It was one gunman. I, at that time, thought big deal. So what?
Because of the contrast of, well, that's nothing compared to what I've grown up with every freaking day.
And 2 years obviously is not enough time for me to have healed from where I was coming from. I was still very much in that survival state. And I was like, it's one gunman. There's only so much he can do. He will run out of bullets even if he shoots everybody.
Yeah.
And so the way we're living, what's going on inside is unimaginable, Glenn. If the only life you've ever known is growing up anywhere in a metropolitan city in Australia, it's just kind of beyond your imagination to understand what that's like. And at that time, when the Lint siege happened, I was like, man, either there is something seriously wrong with me or there's something seriously wrong with everyone else in Australia. Of course, it was me and my experience, in time as I healed from all of that violence, I realized why people were reacting that way. And I was like, oh, yeah, as you should.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for all of us that we live in a country where life is so precious that should one person be shot dead, it's going to make national news. But that's not the world I come from.
So everyone, just hearing that, next time you're about to have a go at the teenager working at Macca's for not having your latte hot enough, what about you chill out for 10 minutes? Like that's the problem, isn't it? Like we live so cushy here.
Yeah.
We get like set off by my soy latte isn't warm enough. Outrage.
Yeah. You know what I realized though, Glenn? Survival mode on the inside kind of feels pretty much the same, whatever the outside context is. So growing up in Karachi, witnessing whatever I was witnessing, it's not like my anxiety or depression was a whole other level of bad compared to someone in like
Yeah, because I
Australia.
guess you the frog in the pot relatively.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
or
right.
something like that.
That's right. So even a cushy life in metropolitan Australia might still give you the same level of survival feelings on the inside that life does. So I get it. That's why I have empathy. Like, you know, I get it.
Yeah. So you're on a money podcast.
Yes.
Hello, everyone.
So I am.
And I think that, and realistically, because I've asked you about a bit of your history, we've said a bit of a scene, at least now any word that drips out of your mouth, people know the context of why.
I love it.
So what would you say money is to you?
That has changed so much for me over the years, Glenn. When I first came to Australia, money was about survival, for sure. For a long time, it was about having my next meal and keeping a roof over my head. Money was the way to survive and build a new life. Later, once I was a little bit more settled, it was all about traveling. And doing all the adventurous things that little Mariam wanted to do. And now she was old enough and powerful enough to do it for herself. That's what money was about. It was about getting all of those experiences that I craved for as a young girl in Pakistan, but they seemed so far out of reach. Traveling the world alone, outrageous. When I did it, my parents were like, you're traveling alone. You don't have a man with you. You don't even have girlfriends with you. They're like, at least take girlfriends along, travel with your sisters or something. Why even are you traveling? This was such a stickler from my parents. They were like, what is the point? If you want to travel, why don't you come visit home? You know, because it's such a foreign concept where I was growing up. So I did all of those things. That's what money was. And now at this stage in life, money to me now means love. I receive love from the universe in the form of money.
Right. How do I get more love?
Because I feel like in the present day, it's money. Because we've collectively agreed that this is a thing, you know, that we are going to use. But I mean, it could well be potatoes, you know.
Well, it used to be that as a society, this sheepskin.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the word buck came from. A buckskin in the States was worth $1.
I did not know that. That's where the word buck as monetary term comes
B-U-C-K,
from.
Yeah, so society used to say we agree that a sheepskin or a goat had value, and then it went to gold, and now it went to
money.
Notes.
In the case of like
crypto.
In case of a climate collapse, it might be crypto, might be food again. You know, it just depends on whatever the medium is. But to me, I really feel like I've spent, can I go on a bit of a tangent here, Glenn?
Go for it.
On my 29th birthday, actually, I had this conversation with my mom about how I felt like I've done everything I ever wanted to do, Mom. I did all the adventures. I did, my goals were always service-based. I wanted to help. That's been what that looks like changes over time, but that's been like a very core part of who I am since I was a little kid. And I was like, Mom, all the things that I thought I would do in a lifetime, I've done. And I'm just turning 29. And I feel like if I pass on, I will go happily. I have lived a life. I'm content. And I think that shifted something in a lot of different areas of life, money being one of them. Because if I have done all of the things that I ever wanted to do and I am content to go, then money was no longer about survival. And I feel like I actually made the most money I've ever made that year. And I feel like it kind of became like a thank you from the world for the incessant service that I have done. I don't know how to say that humbly, but it's true, Glenn. I have served with every ounce of my being from as early as I can remember. Definitely my whole career is built around service.
So, yeah, I resonate with that because I think when I was 30-ish, even 31, I literally had a bucket list. These are what I want to achieve, and I ticked them off the list. It was done.
Yeah.
And there was only 4 on there, and I'd done them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess I'm done. Take me home, Jesus. Like, I was done, and someone's like, you can do another bucket list. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's the whole, like, when you, in your financial life, once you start to have momentum, you get to this place where it's not really about the money because John Mayer's song, I'll say this over and over again, the song Something's Missing. He talks about all this stuff that he's got, but something's still missing.
Yes.
And and I think it was love or relationship or something like that was missing. But I totally vibe that.
Yeah. So I feel like it helped me even value myself better. That's why I think that inflow happened, because money just wasn't tied to survival anymore. So it's just, I think that's also part of being in your 30s. There is a shift.
Yeah.
So even for you, there was a shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just weird, and I'm not really motivated by it anymore because I've got to that critical mass. And that's my goal, that everyone gets to the point where, because you're doing what you love, you're making good money, you've got some options, you're living life on your own terms, you can do what you want.
Yeah.
And it's not this all revolving around money. And I'll go on a tangent now. I had actually today, someone I knew dropped in, and they're, I think, 43, and they're, I won't get too into the weeds, but can't work in their current work ever again. Big disability payout. It was mental health related. And we were literally talking about that thing that society has drummed into us, that we have to do stuff for the money as a first thing. But because money is no longer a problem for him, and he said, I think I might go and get a trade or something like that. And I said to him, become a plumber, great money. I was like, hang on. No, this isn't about the money.
Yeah.
This is about what can I do that I enjoy? And this is the dance, right? Because you're a valuable and valued person, sure, if you want to go and volunteer, knock yourself out. Awesome.
Yep.
But is this whole thing, it's like, well, if I'm adding value commercially to a business or entity, I need to be rewarded financially, so I'm not getting taken advantage of.
Yep.
But the primary driver isn't about I'm doing this to get money.
Yeah.
I want to do this because it's fulfilling.
That's right.
And I like doing it.
Yes. And that's a very different energy.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for this person. They get to go back to that thing when they were a child. what was always true to them.
Yes.
And now they get to live out their dreams.
Absolutely. Hey, we'll take a break and we'll be back right after this.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. If you would like help based on your own personal situation, head over to moneypodcast.com.au, click Get Help, and we'd be happy to introduce you to one of our trusted professionals. Our panel of vetted financial advisors and mortgage brokers work with people all over Australia so they can connect with you wherever you are. That's moneypodcast.com.au and click Get Help.
Rightio, we're back. So money is love to you. Love is money. Is that what we're getting at? Because I just want to unpack that. So you're saying you would describe money as love.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think the reverse is true, because love is a lot of things, not just money. I think money for me falls under there.
Yeah, okay. So if someone, I don't know, maybe I'm just out of touch with my emotions as per. But like, if you receive money, so if you did part of your role, and I'll ask you in a moment, and you added a lot of value and they financially reward you, you're just saying you receive that love as a thank you.
That's right.
Okay.
From them and the universe. And I don't know what your audience is like, Glenn, but I'm a spiritual person.
Yeah, I'm getting that.
So I would, I grew up Muslim and I'm still like very much a woman of faith.
Yeah.
And I feel a lot of gratitude. So today, for example, when I was paid for something, it never changes that feeling. I see it come in and then I just say thank you.
Yeah.
Just thank you. Thank you to that person for seeing my worth. Thank you, Ya Allah, for rewarding me in this way. Thank you for giving me love in this way, because...
Okay, so I'm going to put some words in your mouth and I want you to spit them back out because they won't be right. Mm-hmm. Your transition with your view on money, and I'll first say, you might come back here in 5 years' time. I might ask you a question, what's money to you? And you're like, extravagance or success, because from what I'm hearing, maybe 10 years ago or ish, when you moved to Australia and you received money from work or a project, you're not thank you for loving me, you are thank you for protecting me and providing for me or giving me the security.
It's thank God I can eat my next meal.
Yeah.
That's it. It didn't go beyond that.
But so the whole receiving that money, it wasn't I received the love, I received the security. I received...
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So it's... Because I'm just trying to unpack in parallel to you, and you've changed your vibe on money because it was for security. Now you've established, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And now it's like, thank you for loving on me. And then in the future, it might be something... And this is the whole thing. We all change over time. And it's all good.
Yeah, and how we feel about money changes, and therefore how we handle our money changes, what we prioritize within our money world changes,
Yeah.
I, in my 20s, spent every cent I saved on traveling and all those goals that they weren't goals. They were just dreams that I had when I was a little kid and I wanted to fulfill them. But I wouldn't do those same things anymore. I'm really glad I did that, because now as a 31-year-old, I don't value the same things anymore. And so now it's different again. And I am so certain that if I come back in 5 years, Glenn, it's going to be something else entirely.
We should, in 5 years, set an alarm. We will do a react video. We'll play your interview and you can react to it in 2030. Oh my gosh.
Oh, done. You're on.
Oh my gosh.
On. That's such a good idea.
Oh my goodness. Because I'm certain if I played something from friggin' 5 or 10 years ago, I'll be like, what?
Yep.
Who is that?
I've seen videos of myself from 5 years ago, like interviews and stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, the essence is definitely still the same. I would say it a little bit differently now though. Yep.
All right, we'll do that. Now, it is 2025 and you have been nominated for the New South Wales Premier's Women of Excellence Award this year. Congratulations.
Thank you, Glenn.
So talk to us about what led to that award and the work that you are doing.
Yeah, I think the award is a culmination of a few years of work. A big part of that is MoneyGirl, the social enterprise that I co-founded that delivers financial education for young people. And because MoneyGirl particularly works with communities that often fall through the cracks with mainstream, I don't know.
Help?
Yes, I guess. The analogy that comes to my mind is, the silicone in the wall next to the aircon that keeps it airtight.
Yeah.
MoneyGirl is kind of like that. It's not like a big mainstream marketer or influencer or anything.
But it has a good use and a great need that it fills.
Yeah, we do need the silicone to cover the cracks, and that's what it's been doing for 5 years. And I mentioned earlier my expertise is in violence prevention, and I have a flair for adult education and long-term behavioral change, which kind of led to MoneyGirl. But I'm not necessarily a money person, I founded MoneyGirl as a way to reduce the barrier of financial control in abusive relationships. And in time, that led to me teaching entrepreneurship because I had started MoneyGirl. And a lot of the people who were coming through were women who couldn't participate in the workforce for a number of reasons, whether it's a visa, young moms, etc. And they were exploring micro businesses as a way to earn money, to have some level of financial security. And I had just been on that journey. So I started teaching, like picking an idea, going to market, early stage of stuff. And then I was teaching that with universities and accelerators across Australia, which inevitably led into leadership. But I don't mean like leadership as in workplace leadership, sure, but it's that thing I was talking about earlier, more like about how we lead ourselves. Do I know who I am? What are my values and guiding principles? So I can make all my decisions according to them. Money, business, workplace, relationships, everything is in line with who I am at my center. So it kind of snowballed from there, but underlying it all is creating a more peaceful world for all of us to live in, both inside of us and outside. And in that line, I did a TEDx talk late last year on violence prevention and breaking cycles of violence based on the evidence that we currently have. And that eventually, I think, led to the award nomination.
Awesome. Well, we hope that you have great success.
Thank you.
But also
Glenn.
Congratulations to all the other nominees for all the awards.
Yes, there are some brilliant people up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting with one of them. So, MoneyGirl, it's a B2B type business. So you help other businesses and you teach them how to help people. How does that work day to day?
So a lot of businesses will have financial literacy needs either for their own employees or they're working with a clientele that has low financial literacy or is an at-risk group. And that's where MoneyGirl can help. We have our own team of facilitators that deliver the program. So businesses that want to deliver financial well-being programs either for their employees or the clients that they're working with.
Yeah, cool. And are you doing that effectively full-time? Or have you got other things on the burner?
Other things. There's always other things, Glenn. I'm neurodivergent. I don't remember the last time I did just one thing at a time. That's not really possible for me. So I do MoneyGirl, but I also teach entrepreneurship wherever I can, whether it's an accelerator or when uni is in semester.
Yep.
And I, of course, do mentorship and workshops on leadership, entrepreneurship as well.
And those workshops on leadership and entrepreneurship, are they also more of a B2B play?
They're B2C as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're both.
So do you have a website that we can send people to have a look?
They can, for money stuff, MoneyGirl.
Yeah.
I would say for money stuff, moneygirl.co, that's moneygirl.co. To find me, it's Money Mariam, and you'll see my website. It's mariammohammed.com. But the reason I don't say that is because how can people spell my name? So if they search for Money Mariam, that's Mariam, they will find my website and they can reach out to me.
And we'll put a link in the comments below this episode, and
Brilliant.
At least people can click on it. Far out, time flies when you're having fun. How do you actually before I ask the next question, I'm going to take another break and pay the bills, and then we'll wrap it up.
If you're after personal financial advice, don't get it from a podcast. If you would like help based on your own personal situation, head over to moneypodcast.com.au, click Get Help, and we'd be happy to introduce you to one of our trusted professionals. Our panel of vetted financial advisors and mortgage brokers work with people all over Australia so they can connect with you wherever you are. That's moneypodcast.com.au and click Get Help.
So how do you conceptually, and I don't ask anyone to tell exact amounts, but how do you manage money week on week, month on month in your life? So money comes into your life. Do you just have one account and you deal? Like, how is money handled in your world?
It evolves depending on any major life changes. So the way I was handling money when I was by myself was different. I like to have ADHD brain. I can't do things manually, and I can't have too many things. It gets confusing. So I used to have one account with an automated system to go money into all different accounts. With my partner, he is more hands-on and is able to do Excel spreadsheets and stuff like that. He's able to be more active with the management. So now it looks a little bit different because there's a whole other person with his systems pre-built and my systems pre-built. And then we had to work out how does it all fit together. And so now what it looks like is we have a weekly finance check-in on Mondays where we go through our weekly expenses, because now everything is going onto, all our expenses go onto one credit card that's earning us points. And then we sit down once a week to categorize it all and see if we're within budget or not, and then where is money going and all of that stuff. And then the credit cards getting paid off every month. And then savings accounts are still all set up as sinking funds accounts for money to go into.
Weekly, it comes around fast.
It does. Yeah.
And are either you dragged along in that, or is it something you have agreed on?
We agreed on it because when it's done weekly, it's less overwhelming for both of us.
Do you reckon it's helped the relationship doing the money stuff weekly because you've actually got to communicate?
Yes. Also, I just really like the visibility. I like, if I'm going to manage my money with someone, I want to sit down with them and for both of us to understand what's going on. It just lowers my levels of anxiety. And look, things might look different in the future. If we should have a family, etc., maybe we don't have the same kind of time to commit to each other, to do it together. I don't know. That's why I say change is based on major life changes. But for now, this works because I like seeing, we just sit down together next to each other. We also do our personal and business finances in the spreadsheet at the same time.
Is your partner self-employed as well?
That's right. So on an ongoing basis, when done weekly, it takes us about 20 minutes. But then when it piles up, and then sometimes it does, then it's this feeling. This is the feeling I have about doing it once it's been more than a month, because then I have many transactions to look through and many accounts to look at, and it just gets too much. So weekly might be too much, for someone, if they are able to do it in a different way, I get real heavy about it if it gets piled up.
Do you guys have any joint financial goals at the moment? And do you also have individual financial goals?
Yeah. So our biggest joint financial goal, Glenn, is we both want to live on a communal homestead.
Ooh.
Yeah. That was our individual goal before meeting each
Sounds
other.
cultish. I'm in.
Damn it, Glenn. Why does everyone keep saying that? But that's been my goal since I was a teenager. My long-term living dream was to live on a homestead. In time, as I've grown, I've realized I definitely do not want to do that by myself. As a young person, I thought, independence. And now I'm more about interdependence. I do love being in community. And then when I met my partner, it turns out he had similar goals. And so now that's one of our shared goals. That's probably our major shared goal that we're saving for.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How fun.
Yeah.
In finishing, is there anything that maybe you want to say or talk about that I have not asked?
No, Glenn.
Really?
So I've had a really good time.
It's been wild. It goes fast.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about this year?
I am going to get married later this year, Glenn. And part of me just threw up in my mouth as I said that, because as a young person, I would not have imagined that I would say this one day, but here I am. I am so excited.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm going to travel to go see my partner's family and my family, and we're going to celebrate with them. And I'm going to see almost my whole family, which is very rare because my family is spread out throughout the world. So, that's what I'm most excited about. I'm going to see my siblings. I'm going to see their children all in my childhood home, which I think it's probably been about a decade since that happened. Awesome. That's what I'm most excited about.
Amazing. I think it's always nice to have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And I think I've done many years that I haven't had something to look forward to. And it's like if you drill down into it, it's that kind of when you don't. And I think it's weird because if you need to have something to look forward to because that is almost hope for the future.
Yes.
And if you don't, you can live in the now or you can live in the yesterday.
Yes.
And what I've kind of learned recently and it could be totally wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong, but it's like if looking at different people that I know, like you can be living 100% in the past, you can be just living in the now, or you can just be living in the future. And because I've got this meditation app and I'm doing a bit of meditation, and the whole thing is to actually live in the now. Mm-hmm. But you still do need things to look forward to.
That's
but
right.
You're not actually living for tomorrow and missing all the opportunities and connections and the relationship and the stuff today.
That's right, yeah.
And there's no point living in the past because it could have been very traumatic and it could have been awesome. Either way.
It's done.
It's done.
That's
we
right.
learned from it.
Yeah.
And anyway.
Yeah. My partner and I like to live by this rule because we both can be over planners and can think about the future too much. I mean, being self-employed and all, it's kind of required, but we're trying out being present in the moment most of the time.
Yes.
And then 20% to reminiscing the past, 20% to planning for the future, but still mostly in the present.
Yeah.
So that's a work in progress. When we catch up in 5 years again,
Yes.
I will let you know how it's going.
I hope it will be before. You're welcome anytime on the show. But that would be so cool to do a react video in 5 years.
How did this go?
Did
Did this strategy work?
Amazing.
Yeah. I really like having rewards to look forward to. That works really well, particularly being neurodivergent. Like if I know I have a holiday coming up, seeing family means a lot to me. Year on year, I'm even if I come again next year, it's very likely I'll be like, I'm looking forward to seeing my family.
Yeah.
So because it's a special opportunity for me. They're all overseas. So having it's like a reward, and then I work hard. I'm like willing to do the things that need to be done because I'm like, then I'm going away. Woohoo!
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally cool. Well, Mariam.
Yeah.
I'll get it right one day.
However, your way is also right, Glenn.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Money, Money, Money. We wish you all the success for this year, your wedding, the award, MoneyGirl, all the things. Thank you so much. And everyone, I know we've got these burn in at the end, but if you've found this episode valuable or thoughtful or something full, please share it with a friend or family member. We'll see you soon. Bye. Thanks for listening to today's podcast. If you want to support us, there is one way you can do that. You can send the episode to a friend, a family member, or your group chat if you think those people would find it valuable. We also thank you for leaving a review on Apple or Spotify. If you've listened to this podcast for some time, or if you've read any of my books, you would know that giving and generosity in a financial sense is a big thing in my life. If you think it's time that you are ready to give financially to a good cause, you could head to our website, moneypodcast.com.au/charities to see the charities that we support.
Any advice is general financial advice only, which does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Because of that, you should consider if the advice is appropriate to you and your needs before acting on the information. If you do choose to buy a financial product, read the Product Disclosure Statement, PDS, and Target Market Determination, TMD, and obtain appropriate financial advice tailored to your needs. Simo Interactive Pty Ltd, the publisher of this podcast, and Glen James are authorised representatives of Money Sherpa Pty Ltd, which holds Financial Services Licence 451289. Opinions or comments from any guests on the podcast are theirs and not those of the host or the publisher or their respective licence holders.